This is the Planet Reigate podcast.
Hello Planeteers, this is Podcast Pete with a show exclusively, uniquely and proudly about the hills, the high streets and the heaths of RH1, 2 and 3, and welcome to episode 35 for Saturday the 11th of May 2024, including our unique Betchworth 4 Weddings Watch-Along. Yeah, behind the gates of the Nutfield Woodland Burial site, the YMCA Run and Sports Festival from last weekend, and Pebble Hill's Dawn Chorus. Yeah, what is in this week's show? Well, our guests, and as it's the 30th anniversary of 4 weddings and a funeral later on this month, 30 years, but did you know that the very first wedding was filmed right here in the Planet Reigate area? Okay, maybe you did, but this week I have a unique watch and walk at the church, freeze frame the film, and listen to the Planet Reigate podcast at the same time as I give you the stories behind what you can see on the screen, like the local man with links to the TV show Grey's Anatomy, the man who owned most of Pebble Hill, the bequest from 1737 that's still being paid out today, the links to 5 kings and queens at that church, and the unique and historic wooden chest that, in the film, Hugh Grant simply walks past. It's somewhere we've all driven past dozens of times on the A25 on the way to Bletchingley, and there's an open day at the Nutfield Woodland Burial site soon. I've been along to see what's there and what makes it different from other usual sites. Hear about how you or your loved one can be laid to rest amongst the trees. And it was the YMCA Run and Sports Festival at Priory Park last weekend. Here are reports from that later on in this week's show. Plus, in the Good Time Guide, a jumble sale in Brockham and the Spring Arts Fair in Bletchingley. Also, the Reigate and Redhill Music and Drama Festival continues. There's an open singing workshop, a choir fundraiser and movies in Merstham. I'll tell you about a plant sale, a run around Gatwick Airport, an antiquing game, Lakeside Book Club, a pizza and paint night, and a group called Rebels with a Cuppa. There's a walk around Outward Common, rock and roll swing, Lindy Hop and line dancing, adult ballet, and a 3-day beer festival. An art festival where you can buy collage, calligraphy and cross-stitch, and a Taylor Swift-inspired art workshop, and a local cook-along where you could win a slow cooker. In news, the local town that's been called a solid and affordable choice for commuters. The new local business guild, which has started up to help you connect with other local companies. How you can find out about what's happening to the NHS locally. Details of a service to commemorate the D-Day landings. How you can apply for a grant if yours is a local charity. The local place which has been named the best family attraction in the whole of Surrey. And in sport, praise for rugby players at Carrington School. Plus football, tennis, badminton, pickleball and Tai Chi as well. Plus in travel, a really big weekend for a really big road closure. I'll tell you more about that as well. All right here on this week's edition of the Planet Reigate podcast.
This is the Planet Reigate podcast with Peter Stewart.
And don't forget to subscribe to the show in your favourite podcast app and tell your friends as well. And it's always great to see your likes on social media. Even greater if you follow us, you've subscribed to the show and you tell other people about it as well. Thank you so much indeed for your help in that regard. So yeah, let's start off with the Planet Reigate postbag. Nina has written to me and said, "Hi Peter, hope you're well. Been listening with enthusiasm to the podcast. Such a great asset to the community." Nina, so is what you do with the Unison Choir. And Nina's dropped me a line to tell me about something they are doing this coming Saturday, and I'll tell you about that in a few moments' time. But she says, "Thanks for your skill and tenacity and giving the podcast so much energy and warmth." Nina, I really appreciate it. I have skill and tenacity. I didn't know. Thank you very much indeed for your kind words. David says, "I love the podcast, and as someone who's really passionate about our local area, I'm so pleased it promotes everything so well. I used to work in radio and podcasting, so I know the power of the spoken word." David, thanks very much indeed for your message. And in fact, David is involved with something called Boom Tennis, which I've mentioned a couple of times previously on the show, and I'm going to give you a bit more information about what they do a little bit later on in this week's episode as well. Someone we'll just call E says, "You're doing a fantastic job." So thanks, E. I know who you are. You know who you are. If you can remember what you said in your email, thanks very much indeed. There's a reason I'm not mentioning E's full name, because he works for what should we say? He works for a business locally where they've kind of got to be a little bit impartial and so on. So, yeah, but I thought I'd pass on what E had to say. And also, last week I mentioned, if you may remember, that at Donata School, they were asking some of their students to take in packets of disposable nappies because they were going to compete to build the tallest nappy tower in their house groups before donating on those packets onto Stripey Stalk. Congratulations. And in reply, Anthony Kerr wrote, "Thank you so much for mentioning this. I love the show, by the way." I've mentioned a few times how you can donate to the show if you'd like to, and it's just a kind of fun way if you want to do something, which we're working with a website called Buy Me a Coffee, and I've suggested that if you want to buy me a virtual coffee, you can do just that by going to that website, and if you do it on your phone, you just press a couple of buttons, you tap a couple of places on your screen, and automatically you're sending me the price of a cup of coffee, which is £3, which actually is quite cheap, isn't it, for the Reigate area? £3 for a cup of coffee. And Alison has done just that. Alison bought me 5 coffees in the week. She says, "Well done, Peter. I love the Planet Reigate podcast. I listen every week. How did we manage without you before?" Alison, thank you so much. That's really sweet. And from Alison to Anne, who says, "Thank you so much for an informative podcast," and says, "I've lived in Reigate all my life. I'm now learning even more about the area." And Anne bought me 3 coffees. So if you'd like to follow in their footsteps,
Support us at buymeacoffee.com/The Planet Reigate podcast.
you don't have to, but if you'd like to, I would really appreciate it, because, as you know, this is a kind of hobby. It's a pastime. I don't get paid for doing this. So if you're I know, right? It has to be said. A good half dozen people over the last few months have said, that's your job, isn't it? No, it's a hobby. I'm doing it for the love of it. And I do love doing it, but you get the drift. Anyway, move on. Our new feature, Peter's Out. Yeah, so what have I been up to? Around RH1, 2 and 3 over the last few days. Well, of course, I was at the big YMCA sports event in Priory Park, and you'll hear about what happened there last week later on in this week's show. I went to the always good art show at Betchworth Village Memorial Hall that I've mentioned a couple of times recently. That's actually organised by the Dorking Artists Group, and we'll kind of let them into the Planet Reigate area after all. It is actually in Betchworth, part of Mole Valley after all, but it was really good to go down there, seriously. They do a spring show every year at the Betchworth Village Memorial Hall. Is always well worth going to. And then from there I went to have lunch at a local pub, Feather of Beef, since you ask, and a nice glass of Merlot. And I was also to be found recording for our 60-second Soundscape features. Now, I don't know whether you've caught these. They're right at the end of the show. It's a natural sound from a place you know. Right at the end of the show. We play natural sounds from local places, sometimes natural sounds made by human beings, the skateboarding park at Priory Park, or maybe bowling at the Light, something like that. But very often I go to local woods, fields, anywhere in the countryside, top of Reigate Hill, a paddock, a pasture, or a copse, somewhere like that, and just hear, put my microphone on, and just capture the sounds of maybe the River Mole trickling away, or the birds in the trees, or the lambs barring away in the background, that kind of thing. And this week, this last Sunday, it was Dawn Chorus Day. Don't know if you appreciated that. So I got up super early and I was at Pebble Hill before 5 a.m. And you'll hear the recording of the crack of dawn on Pebble Hill at the end of this week's show. And after going to Pebble Hill to record the Dawn Chorus there, I also went and recorded it in Brockham, Reigate Heath, Redhill Common and Holmthorpe Lagoons. Now, just to put that in perspective, if you're worried about my driving speed, the Dawn Chorus lasts for about 90 minutes, and I plotted the best route between all of those places, and of course there was no other traffic on the road. I stuck to the speed limit. As the name suggests, I was at each location for just a few minutes, it being the 60-second soundscape. So I managed to do that, and as I say, you'll be hearing the fruits of my early morning labours from last Sunday morning before I went on to the Sports Festival at Priory Park over the course of the next few weeks on the Planet Reigate podcast. I'm Peter Stewart. Thank you so much indeed for the loan of your ears. And if you'd like to loan your time to an event which is happening across our fantastic area over the next few days, then what you want to know is our good time guide. And we'll bring that to you right now on the Planet Reigate podcast.
The Good Time Guide. Things to do and places to go on the Planet Reigate podcast.
And remember to subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode. And you can do that, of course, via your favourite podcast app. And if you want to mention for your event, let us know about it. You can fill out the form you'll find on the planetreigatepodcast.com. A couple of weeks' notice would be absolutely grand. If you don't mind, helps us get our ducks in a row. Brockham Village Hall have a spring jumble sale on Saturday. All proceeds to Brockham Village Hall centenary revamp. So that's Saturday the 11th, 2 till 4, £1 entry. You can browse 20 plus amazing stalls and chat to the creators about what they do. Spring raffle, tombola for kids, homemade cake stall, and this season's marmalade as well. Spring cafe serving refreshments and delicious lunches. It's all happening at Bletchingley's Spring Arts, Crafts and Food Fair. Saturday 10 till 3 at the Village Hall at RH1 4PA. £1 for adults. Also, let's tell you about brewery sessions on Saturday between 1 and 9, hosted by the Horns Brewing Company. That's Unit 11 to 12 in Solbrook Road in Salfords. Barbecue food and music as well, all sorts of things going on there. It's fantastic to tell you that we are partners with the Reigate and Redhill Music and Drama Festival. Yeah, the main festival goes through now until the 19th of May. You can go to rrmdf.org.uk for details, and a whole load of events upcoming over the course of this second week of the festival. And you can get to see these kind of mini concerts, if you like, for free. So today, Saturday, which is what we're talking about, junior and intermediate woodwind between 9 and 6 at the URC Church. That's right on Shaw's Corner there. It's in the upper hall. Piano and organ 9 till 6 in the main church, and speech and drama 9 till 6 at Reigate Park Church. There's an open singing workshop Saturday, Haydn, at St Mary's Church in Reigate. They say join us for a rewarding and enjoyable workshop exploring this masterpiece. There'll be refreshments, cake and raffle, and an informal sing-through with soloists to conclude the day. Nina, as mentioned earlier from Unison Choir, said, Peter, just wanted to bring your attention to the fact there's an afternoon show on Saturday at Redhill Methodist Church. It's a fundraiser for the church and include the local charity. Their choir is performing, as is mine, the Unison Choir. It's 3 till 5 p.m, tickets £10, children free. Just thought you might be able to add it to your list of upcoming events. Nina, it's what we're here for, so be really pleased to give that a second plug. Here we go. It's Saturday, Redhill Methodist Church. It's going to include the Include Choir and also the Unison Choir, 3 till 5 p.m, tickets £10. Saturday afternoon, tea and music at Salfords Village Hall between 3 and 5. Music provided by the A to Z Flute Choir and the Rewind Wind Band. And yes, you have heard of the Rewind Wind Band before because they were featured in episode 7 of the Planet Reigate podcast. Tickets £12 for adults, £8 for children. rewindwindband at gmail.com for more details. Reigate Caves Open Day on Saturday. If you want some more information, reigatecaves.org.uk. Merstham Movies. Merstham's very own community cinema is screening Wonka on Saturday. Tickets £4 for adults, £2 for kids, plus free pizza, kindly donated by Pizza Project Merstham. More details 01737 33 3461. Doors open at 6 for a 6:30 start. They say, bring your own cushion. Saturday at 8:30, it's the NGS plant sale at Holborns on Mid Street in Red Hill. They say all plant donations are welcome from 8 a.m. The sale starts at 8:30. As spring hails in the new gardening year, please consider supporting us in our key yearly fundraiser. They say our plant sale relies on kind-hearted gardening souls donating extra or unwanted plants, which in turn benefits you in grabbing some fabulous homegrown bargains. So can you sow a few extra seeds for vegetables, herbs and flowering annuals? Divide grasses, summer flowering bulbs and alpines. Maybe take cuttings of soft fruiting canes, roses or dahlias. Propagate your houseplants. Spread the word. Perhaps you have green-thumbed friends or relatives outside of the village. Either which way, funds raised help us cover hall hire costs for village events like the shows, provide expert guest speakers at talks, and will aid the society in community projects. Doesn't that sound fantastic? It's the NGS, that's the National Gardening Scheme, isn't it? NGS plant sale at Holborns, Mid Street in Red Hill. RH1, and the plant donations are welcome from 8 and the sale starts at 8:30. Run Gatwick is here again, starting and finishing from Gatwick Aviation Museum. It's all done in partnership with London Gatwick Airport. A unique and exciting route. It takes you inside the restricted area of the UK's second largest airport, right along the full stretch of main runway, running beside planes as they take off and land, less than 100 metres away from you. Wow, what an experience. A fast and flat closed road, 10k. The best bit about Run Gatwick is, well, the Gatwick Airport part. No other event gets you this close to a live international airport. So there'll be places where you can safely set up and view, and there may even be some last-minute tickets and running possibilities for you. Either which way, runseries.co.uk is the place to go to, and check out Run Gatwick, runseries.co.uk. The Reigate and Red Hill Music and Drama Festival is happening again on Sunday. It's a festival service at United Reformed Church, Shaw's Corner. So if you're interested in going along to that, then why don't you do so? Because that's going to be a kind of a kind of mini concert of some of the best performances that they've had so far. And that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is this week's Good Time Guide for Saturday and Sunday. Part 2 comes a little bit later on in the show, where we look through the rest of the week, Monday through Friday, across the Planet Reigate area of Reigate, Red Hill and Merstham, Buckland, Betchworth and Brockham.
From Reigate and Red Hill, Buckland, Betchworth and Brockham. Great stories from places you love and people you know. This is the Planet Reigate podcast.
She said it better than I, doesn't she? I'm Peter Stewart. We've got so much more in our archived shows. For example, Reigate and Red Hill Music and Drama Festival. Rewind back to episode 21 to hear Jane Patrick from the festival tell us all about it. And in episode 22, Scarlett from KCA Dance Company spoke to us. They're previous national title winners, and their classes include dance, drama, singing, cheerleading, tumbling and performing arts. And in the same show, Mark, who's a local ukulele teacher and performs electric folk with his band Touchstone. You may have seen them at various festivals and concerts across the south. Hear him before you, hear him in episode 22. Find those episodes on our page on your favourite podcast app. And before we go, at the end of the show, a natural sound from a place you know, our 60-second soundscape, the Dawn Chorus from Pebble Hill on the Planet Reigate podcast. Well, it may not be something you've ever thought about or wanted to. Where will you rest in peace? If you opt for a burial for you or a loved one, will it be the manicured lawns of a cemetery or the religious grounds of a churchyard? If neither of them appeal and you love the idea of being eco and of lying in a more natural environment, then a natural burial may be for you. And this could happen locally. Somewhere we've all driven past dozens of times on the A25 on the way to Bletchingley, on what's actually called Pimlico Hill. It's the Nutfield Woodland Burial site. And it may surprise you to know that there's an open day there soon, next Saturday, the 18th, between 10 and 1. A great opportunity to take a look round, ask any questions you may have. And I've been along ahead of time to see what's there, what makes it different from a usual site, and hear about how you or your loved one can be laid to rest amongst the woodland.
I'm Sarah Abellan, Parish Clerk for Nutfield Parish Council. So we've got the top section is the formal cemetery, which is a traditional cemetery. The left side is consecrated, so that's blessed by a priest. The right-hand side isn't. It's kind of gone in stages as well. We had one year particularly where the woodland burial was extremely busy and we did very little in the formal cemetery. Actually, I think we had 2 years like that. This year has been very busy for the formal cemetery, which is unusual. The idea that full burials are disappearing is not really the case. A lot of people are still wanting a full burial, but we do ashes as well, ashes interments.
And that's part of the problem, isn't it, that people still want a full burial because the places are running out in churchyards across the country, and certainly I know in this neck of the woods as well.
Yes, we've got a churchyard that's closed because they can't take any more, and there are some others in the area, so a lot of places are trying to create additional space. They buy extra bits of land if they can to try and create a new one. Here, although this is quite a long established cemetery, we do still have quite a lot of space, so we're very lucky, and every now and again we make a little bit more by taking out bits. We try not to take too much of the greenery out unless we have to.
Because that's part of what makes it attractive.
Yeah, exactly, and it's also the more you make space, the more that maintenance there is. So the cemetery tries to remain self-funding. We don't make a profit out of it, but at the same time, all the money goes back into maintaining the trees and paths and things like that. So
you may be, when you're listening to this, you're probably hearing some raindrops. It's threatening to rain. It has been raining, and the rain is kind of falling on the trees or through the trees at the moment. How old is this cemetery? I'm looking at some fantastic gravestones. I'm really intrigued, as a lot of people are with cemeteries, and this one here we're looking at is so old that all of the inscriptions have worn away.
Late 1800s, so 1890s were the first interments here. This section we're standing in, actually, these are the oldest. We've also got 6 war graves.
Yes, I saw at the front there was a Commonwealth War Graves Commission plaque. Yeah, tell me about that.
So we've got 6 war graves that we come every remembrance we put wreaths on. They're meant to be looked after by the War Graves Commission. We've actually got an additional one, so we lay an extra wreath for that one. It's not an official war grave, but it is a war grave.
So are these local people who died in one of the wars?
Yes, yeah. So,
and we're talking about one of the 2 Great Wars or more recently?
Yeah, no, one of the 2 Great Wars. So there's one there, actually.
We'll walk up to this. So this is somebody who died in one of the wars. This first one here, which looks like one of the traditional ones that you might see in France, that kind of design.
All the war graves are the same.
Private G.W. Ledbetter from the Queen's Sixth, who died at the age of 23 back in October 1918. So let's walk a bit further down. So that's the 2 perhaps main parts of the cemetery that you would first encounter when you leave the lay-by, and that's on the main road, as you probably know, from Red Hill over to Bletchingley and so on, heading towards the M23. You've got a few notices up here, so essentially advising people what they can and can't do in this area, because I guess that's always been a problem over recent years, certainly, about the size of headstones, the memorials that people put out, and also you're talking about what flowers can go and the benches and so on that can go up as well. Yeah,
so in the woodland burial we're a lot stricter. We do have rules obviously for the whole cemetery, but down here we have to maintain the ethos of a natural burial site. So we don't actually allow any planting. We only allow flowers to be put down in their natural state, such as these, or held together with raffia. So everything has to be biodegradable, and all the tablets, if they want a tablet, they're all exactly the same format. And a lot of people choose not to have a tablet, so where you see all the markers, they're either plots that are reserved or they are used and not not had a tablet placed.
So let's look at this particular plot here. We've got a plaque down. We won't mention the name, obviously, for privacy reasons, but under that plaque, is there an urn, is there a casket, is there a coffin? What goes in the natural burial area?
Yeah, so they are all in front of the plot, the tablets, and they will be either a biodegradable urn if it's an ashes interment, or a biodegradable coffin. So they can be made from willow, bamboo, cardboard even, but they are all biodegradable, and it's slightly different down here. They're single burials only, so they can go in groups side by side, but they don't go on top like they do in one plot up there. We tend to have ashes in front of trees to maximise the space, and full burials are in open areas. So we've got the meadow. It will get a cut in the autumn, and then it doesn't get cut again till next year. So at one point it does get quite overgrown, but we like to encourage the wildlife. And then we've got the two wooded areas. So we've got parishioners over in that side and non-parishioners are on this side.
We're talking about urns, or is anyone scattered here?
No, we don't do scattering.
You don't do scattering? Right.
No, they're all interments.
Right, okay. You've built a kind of path amongst the trees here,
Yes.
and that path is laid out with some what looks like silver birch tree trunks and branches and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where some more people are interred,
Yep.
and people can go for a walk and
Yep.
walk through the woodland area.
Yeah, lots of people walk around here. But yes, there are interments inside. We've got RSPB bird boxes that we don't let people put their own up because they tend not to maintain them, and then it creates issues for the birds.
Yeah.
So the RSPB put bird boxes here that they maintain, and we've got...
Because naturally it's going to be a quiet
Yes,
area, isn't
exactly,
it?
yeah. And we've got little bug hotels and bee hotels dotted around that we made using the old markers from the cemetery, the original markers.
all right.
So
Now we can still hear the 825 in the distance, but it's getting quieter and quieter as
Yes.
we make our way through. And over towards the back, an open field. There were sheep here earlier on. But I can't actually see them at the
Yes,
moment.
some
But
of them, yeah.
yes, over in the distance. Yeah. So you're trying your very best to make this as natural as possible. aren't you?
yes, yeah, that's the idea. So the whole idea of a woodland burial is that the plot then rewilds. They're not allowed to be tended, as you can see, so they just grow back and kind of disappear amongst the growth. So they go back to being... I think the idea for a lot of people is that they don't like to leave a footprint, and that's becoming more of an important thing for people these days. So,
And are you noticing an uptick with people being more interested in this
definitely.
form of burial?
Yeah.
And what are families and what are individuals saying to you about the reasons?
nobody's really said anything specifically about not leaving a footprint, but I think they just like the idea of it going back to nature, and also no upkeep for their family, which I think is quite important for a lot of people. They don't want to leave somebody having to tend a grave, being responsible for a memorial, and and they don't want them to feel like they've got to come here, which tends to be the biggest thing. And I don't know whether that's because people now live further apart from each other.
I was going to say that
Yeah.
in the old days where people stayed in a village for generations, people are much more scattered. So to have that onus on a son or daughter or grandchildren to come back and to tend a grave,
Yeah.
and they may not even have met that person, it's quite a consideration, isn't it?
It is, and I think that does seem to be the most common thing that I hear.
Let's wander back. What are the financial considerations? We're talking about the different ways and places that people can be buried here. Are there different kinds of costs involved?
The costs for the plots in the woodland burial are more or less the same as in the formal cemetery. The difference being that you could buy one plot in the formal cemetery and that will take 2 full burials and 6 ashes, whereas down here a plot that costs around the same price will only take 1, because obviously, as I mentioned, they're all single interments down here. So yes, if there were 2 of you and you wanted to be buried together, down here you would have to purchase 2 plots, up there you would have to buy 1. Anybody's welcome here, there's no restrictions at all.
And are you finding that people are interested a long time before they actually need a plot either for themselves or for other people?
Yes, we have a lot of our purchases now are pre-purchases, a big age range, It does tend to be a lot more of the older community that are thinking about getting their affairs in order. But we do have a mixture, and sometimes people buy plots at the same time for children. And so, yes, we've got whole sections of families.
You know where you're going to be, whether you're religious or not.
Yeah.
It's nice to, perhaps for a lot of people, to have that that closure at the end of their life, even they won't actually know about
Yeah.
it, but they know what's going to happen.
You know, people like to get it done and get it sorted, and it's one less thing for the children to worry about when the time comes, or, you know, for a family member having to deal with it, and they get to choose where they are.
What would be the advantage to come here rather than a churchyard or a council-run plot or something that's run privately?
I think it's very personal. It's a very personal choice. Some people don't like the religious side, so this is not linked to a church. Private ones can often be very expensive, but I think it is very personal. I think, you know, a lot of people I meet don't just come to ours. They go to a few, they look around.
They shop around a bit.
Yeah, and then they just find one that they are comfortable with, that they like. And I think we're very lucky. We have a very beautiful setting. The Woodland Burial has been established for over 20 years, so it's not a brand new one. So, we've got lots of beautiful trees and it's very peaceful. There's lots of wildlife. They like that it's not a huge cemetery. We've got a good amount of space, but we're not an enormous one that you have to walk to get to where you want to be. It's very relaxed, it's very tranquil, it's very calm, and it's a beautiful place. So.
And how do people get more information? How do they get in contact if their interest has been piqued now? Where do they go for more information?
Nutfield Parish Council run the cemetery, so we've got a website, or they can email Parish Clerk at nutfieldpc.com, or give us a call, or they can contact us through the website. And there's a lot more information on the website, and there's a drone video on there as well, which is beautiful.
And as I say, there's an open day there as well, next Saturday the 18th between 10 and 1. A great opportunity to take a look around and ask any questions you may have. And Sarah says she looks forward to seeing you there. Sarah, thanks so much indeed for your time. Slightly unusual topic that we've covered there this week, but hopefully that's of use to you and of interest. As I say, somewhere you've passed so many times, I'm sure, like me. And it's something that we try not to think about, isn't it? If we go to someone's funeral, we think maybe for a few days or maybe just a few hours, and then we inevitably, understandably, put those thoughts out of our mind. But just dropping that idea into your mind today as you're listening to this about what you could do, and maybe the next step is going to that open day on Saturday the 18th at the Nutfield Natural Burial Site. You heard about it on the Planet Reigate podcast.
Planet Reigate is bowling balls in Reigate and bowling balls in Red Hill. And this is the Planet Reigate podcast.
Still to come, tell you about an antiquing game, Lakeside Book Club, a pizza and paint night, and a group called Rebels with a cuppa. Plus, there's a walk around Outwood Common. It's been a while since I went to Outwood Common, so maybe even join them for that. In the news, a new local business guild, details of a service to commemorate the D-Day landings, and in sport, praise for rugby players at Carrington School. And later on in this week's episode, be featuring that big sports festival and YMCA Fun Run, which happened in Reigate last Sunday, helped to raise money for the local YMCA across East Surrey and encourage more people to take up a sport. Our report from that event is a little bit later on in this week's show. And, our never-done-before, shot-by-shot walkthrough of the first scenes in the Betchworth church, where they filmed the first wedding in the film 4 Weddings, which was released 30 years ago this coming week. You'll be able to watch the film on your TV and play our podcast at the same time, and I will point out from the inside shots of the church, St Michael's in Betchworth, what you can see and what the stories behind those various memorials and plaques and graves and other things just out of shot in St Michael's Church in Betchworth. It's intriguing. It's never been done before, certainly by me. I've never known anyone to do something similar to this before in a podcast. It all ties in with 4 weddings and a funeral, and you can hear it later on in this week's episode of the Planet Reigate podcast. Really looking forward to bringing that to you a little bit later on in this week's episode. Here comes our news sequence, though. And you know what? Watch out for dragons, because I'm going to be telling you a word which begins with B, yeah? But it does have significance with our neck of the woods as well. Appropriately enough, dragons breathe fire, and we're talking about fire because Banstead could lose its fire station. Chief Fire Officer for Surrey Fire and Rescue says it's no longer fit for purpose. They're looking at moving its engine and crew to Godstone, which is 9 miles away. So from one side of Reigate and Redhill to the other side of Reigate and Redhill, Surrey Fire say they can assure residents that response times will still not exceed a 10-minute target. Now, there is an average response time to critical incidents in the borough of Reigate and Banstead, and that's 7 minutes 23 seconds. Boy, oh boy, I'm making no comment, but obviously if your house is on fire, if you do need help, if you've got a really serious problem, then 7 minutes 23 seconds is long. But of course they can't have a fire station positioned to the end of every road, can they? And the Fire Service Draft Community Risk Management Plan says it would increase from 7 minutes 23 to 8 minutes 3 seconds if that move to Godstone goes ahead. Apparently Banstead also doesn't have adequate facilities for its crew, and that apparently they already visit neighbouring stations to carry out their training. And also the lease on Banstead Fire Station can't be renewed beyond 2025. Well, that's obviously going to be a problem. Now, there is a public consultation on the proposals. It lasts until the 31st of July, a decision made by the Fire Authority in January next year. More on that story on the BBC website. The unfashionable commuter town named one of London's best, where houses are £200,000 cheaper. Yeah, that is the headline in mylondon.news during the course of the week. Well, which, quote, unfashionable commuter town are they talking about? Well, it's our very own, one and only, Redhill. They say Redhill's just 12 miles south of Croydon. It's been named one of the best commuter towns in London. Well, that doesn't quite make sense. It can't be a commuter town in London, can it? It's a commuter town outside London. People commute from Surrey to London. See, however, how many other mistakes you can get in this article here. When you think, quote, when you think of London's commuter towns, places like St Albans, Iver and Reading probably spring to mind. Their close proximity to the capital and excellent transport links make them perfect for those tired of city life but still needing to commute for work. Take Redhill in Surrey, got it right. Located 12 miles south of Croydon, this town often gets overlooked in the numerous annual roundups of where to buy or where it's cheapest to buy. They say Redhill bus station is the second furthest point south you can get to on a London bus. Just been by Dorking on Route 465. I didn't know that. Quote from this article. Redhill might not win any beauty contests, but it's far from ugly. On the surface, it seems fairly unremarkable, but dig a little deeper and you'll find it's one of the most practical options for today's commuter. For starters, here come the house prices, everyone. For starters, you can expect to pay around £450,000 for a property in Redhill, which is a saving of roughly £200,000 compared to London. Obviously, they don't say what kind of house you're getting for that. 450 grand for a property. It's a bit vague, isn't it? Even better, trains can get you to London Victoria in less than 30 minutes, mean you could actually reach central London quicker than many people who live in the city itself. Plus, Redhill station is part of TfL's Oyster scheme, giving it an advantage over most other home counties towns. It's a mere 8-minute journey to Gatwick Airport. Bus route 405 will have you in South London in 15 minutes. It's an appealing commuter spot. The town boasts all the key amenities: a shopping centre, a cinema theatre complex. How up to date is this article? Several high-performing schools, a selection of beautiful parks, including the esteemed National Trust site Gatton Park, and a major hospital just south of the town. Quote, while the town centre may not be the most visually pleasing due to its somewhat brutalist architecture from the post-1960s era, it's undergoing progressive regeneration. In summary, Red Hill presents a solid and more affordable choice for commuters. Living there won't break the bank, and thanks to its excellent connections to London, it can actually be quicker to reach the city centre than if you were living in the capital itself. Okay, that's not a bad write-up, is it? I think some of that is probably quite fair, that post-60s architecture, but some of those other things that they pass off as facts, not very up-to-date at all. Cinema Theatre Complex, that closed down October, was it? Maybe November? Yeah, 6 months ago? Dear oh dear. Anyway, if you want to read that article in full, mylondon.news is from whence it came. Now, huge congratulations go to Danny from Danny Declutters, who was named overall winner in the Entrepreneur Academy 2023-24 Dragon's Den from Reigate and Banstead Borough Council. So this is what happens. You meet the dragons, you pitch your business, and that's all part of a free 6-month entrepreneurship support programme from the council in partnership with East Surrey College. And Danny from Red Hill runs a decluttering business, and I'm going to be having her on the show in a couple of weeks' time. And now, when I say Danny Declutters, she's not from the Netherlands. Declutters is not her surname. Okay, that's the name of her business, Danny Declutters. After a brief pause, the Reigate and Banstead Borough Council business support grants are back. So that means that you can get £1,000 if you want to start or develop or grow. So if you live in the borough or your business is in the borough and you've got fewer than 4 employees, you could get £1,000 in your hand. It's got to be used to help fund new or improved equipment like machinery or tools, IT, maybe a bit of training as well. You fill out an online application, you send it in, you have an interview, takes about 20 minutes. If you pass that with flying colours, they give you £1,000. Well, probably not £1,000 in your hand, to be fair. It's probably just direct transferred into your account, but you get the idea. If you want some more details on that, it's a bit difficult to find, but go straight to the town council, Reigate and Banstead Borough Council, and they'll point you in the right direction for that one. And the Business Employment Growth and Skills Grant has been created to support local small businesses who are looking to expand or enter new markets, become more environmentally sustainable, increase their efficiency or capacity, and follow their growth trajectory. Boy, oh boy, that's a mouthful. It's for small businesses up to 49 employees who can demonstrate real growth. So it's a one-off grant, helps you get new accredited skills or invest in new equipment or premises, help you get apprentices, that kind of thing. So the council has allocated £100,000 to that, and you can get £5,000 per business. This coming Thursday the 16th between noon and 2, there's a learning lunch at Reigate Town Hall. Quote, "What the hell do I say?" That's the title of it. Join marketing expert Nicola MacDonald from Attractive Marketing. They're based in Reigate Road in Reigate. She explores how to generate great content ideas when your mind goes blank. You can book now via the council. If you've got any problems finding their details, not the council, but exactly where to go or people that you get through to on reception, perhaps aren't entirely sure what you're talking about, get in touch with me. I'll point you in the right direction.
Email hello@theplanetregatepodcast.com.
Okay, let's move on because I can tell you about the Hawley Business Guild. They want to invite you to their first ever open house event of the year for free. They say we aim to connect local businesses and provide a space network. Events like this give small businesses and the self-employed an opportunity to meet potential clients, expand their client database as well, and share experience with other local businesses. So it's all happening Wednesday 22nd, Serendipity in Hawley, 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. It is free, but you do need to book in advance, and it's about 500 characters. So if you want some more details on that one, you want to go along, then this is the email address.
Email hello@theplanetregatepodcast.com.
I don't guess that's the email. It literally is the email. Get in touch with me and I'll put you in touch with them. Well, as mentioned earlier, Nutfield Cemetery and Woodland Burial open day, Saturday the 18th from 10 till 1. Didn't mention it in the good time guide because it's not really a good time thing to do, is it, going along to a cemetery? But it's a great opportunity to take a look around the cemetery and woodland burial, discuss your requirements, ask any questions, or if you can't make it on the day, Parish Clerk at nutfieldpc.com. If you got any questions, Saturday the 18th, 10 till 1, and Saturday the 21st, between 10 and 1 as well. 07722 465 344 for more information on that. Now, there is parking available. It's in that lay-by that I mentioned a bit earlier on, right in the entrance to the cemetery on the A25, almost opposite the hotel entrance, just there, isn't it? That neck of the woods, just up the road from Red Hill. Hawley Town Council have got an annual town public forum at 92 Albert Road on Friday the 17th at 7 p.m. to get a community update or their annual report and more stuff as well. Refreshments available from 6:30. They've also got a presentation from a GP from the Hawley Primary Care Network on the Growing Health Together programme to promote health and well-being in local communities. The Hawley branch of the Royal British Legion will be holding a service on Sunday the 9th of June at noon at the War Memorial at Hawley Wreck on Brighton Road to commemorate the D-Day landings, the 80th anniversary of those. The service will be conducted by the Reverend Les Wells, music from the Red Hill Corps of Drums, and readings by Oakwood School pupils. So schools, organisations, members of the public of all denominations are welcome to attend that. So if you're interested in going along to that, those details one more time, it goes like this. It is going to be 9th of June, so plenty of notice for that. 9th of June, 12 noon at the War Memorial, Hawley Wreck. And if you're interested to hear more about the Red Hill Corps of Drums and Band, we spoke to them in episode 24 of the Planet Reigate podcast. Mentioned a little bit earlier on how you could get free money from Reigate and Banstead Borough Council to help you with your business. Well, here's some more money up for grabs now, something we always like to tell you about. The Hawley Edmonds Community Fund is a charitable fund specifically for the benefit of Hawley and its residents, and it was established with money to a bequest to Hawley Town Council by Cyril Edmonds. You may remember Cyril's name. He's a well-known builder who lived in the Norwood Hill area. Now, this fund helps people who love Hawley to donate money for the exclusive benefit of the town and its people. So, in fact, first of all, they want you to contribute money so they can help build a stronger community by supporting local causes. And then local charities and community groups can apply for a small grant from that fund using a grant application button. So again, if you want some more information on that, drop me a line and I'll pass the details on to you, or you can go straight to Hawley Council, Hawley Town Council itself. Hawley Town Council is separate from Reigate and Banstead Borough Council, even though Hawley is actually in the borough. If you get my drift, yeah.
Email hello@theplanetreigatepodcast.com.
And congratulations are in order to Priory Farm Estate because it's been voted Best Family Attraction. Yeah, Discoveryland has been crowned the winner of the Muddy Surrey Best Family Attraction Award. This achievement wouldn't have been possible, they say, without the overwhelming support from all our amazing visitors and loyal customers. They say your votes have shown that Discoveryland has captured the hearts of our local community, making it a go-to destination for memorable adventures and quality time spent together. Second time in a week, Priory Farm has been mentioned. Congratulations to them. There's a photographic competition that you may want to enter. Anyone over 5 years old. Categories include key stages 1 to 4 and adults 16 plus. hawleyinbloom@gmail.com for details on how to enter. Closing date, you got a while yet, 20th of July. So contact them at hawleyinbloom@gmail.com for more information for that photographic competition. And you heard about it on the Planet Reigate podcast.
Planet Reigate is the North Downs Way and the Pilgrim's Way. And this is the Planet Reigate podcast.
Okay, from news to sports, including our report from last week's YMCA East Surrey event, that big fun run and sports festival that was held in Priory Park. That comes as part of our sports sequence. We've got travel and weather together, and also we've got our 60-second soundscape from last Sunday, which was Dawn Chorus Day. Pebble Hill, never been to Pebble Hill before for the 60-second soundscape. We've all driven up and down it dozens and hundreds of times, haven't we? Maybe you work at Pfizer, maybe you're trying to cut off that corner of Reigate Hill if there's a problem on the motorway. It's that little kind of cheeky back route. It's also, unfortunately, a back route for some of those larger lorries, which I know people in Betchworth and surrounding villages get really cross about and so on. It's also well known, of course, for that railway crossing at the bottom that sometimes you can be caught on, and also for some of the flooding that happens there. Anyway, that's where I was at about 10 to 5 last Sunday morning, early doors, microphone in hand, recording the dawn chorus. Really intriguing to hear some of the birds that you'll catch in that recording. It's before we go at the end of the show. Congratulations to Carrington School Red Hill. 3 of their Year 8s played in the Surrey Rugby Cup final against Roslyn Park for the Old Reigatians last week and won. And their coach said Reigatians got the breakthrough they needed and the boys finished Surrey champions with a final score of 10-5. So congratulations to everyone involved with that, particularly Ethan, Austin and Toby as well. And from rugby to football, and Reigate Football Club are after some more players. They say they're going to be running open training sessions for the current Year 1s with the aim of creating new teams for the next season. Free training sessions are going to be starting on the 11th of May. To register an interest, email info@reigatefc.co.uk. As mentioned earlier, boomtennis.co.uk. They say we want all players to have fun as they learn how to play the game. They say we've got a clear view on how to coach. Kids don't learn, they say, by standing in line having a ball fed to them by a coach. We believe children learn best through encouragement when their environment allows them to develop by thinking through the reason for success and errors. They say we love tennis. We always have a racket and play with the kids in the sessions. We work with all standards and we don't prioritise. And we work to improve, not to criticise weakness. So maybe your child has been going to some tennis lessons, not getting on with tennis. You thought they would. They like kind of racket sports, but they're just not getting on perhaps with the club, the team, the coach that they've been going to more recently. Maybe want to try Boom Tennis. Yeah, you can check them out. They've got locations at Red Hill Tennis Club, Hawley Rec for the adults, Hawley Rec for the juniors as well. Maybe it's you that doesn't get on with your particular coach, or their style of teaching. That's really what it is. And nothing wrong with the coach, it's just that you're not gelling for some reason. More details, boomtennis.co.uk. And from tennis to badminton and pickleball. Yeah, free sessions for your mental well-being in Red Hill. Sport in Mind is the UK's leading mental health sports charity in partnership with the NHS. They're working to aid recovery, promote mental well-being, physical health, combat social isolation and empower people to move their lives forward in a positive direction. Now, anyone 17 years or older can take advantage of these free weekly sessions. You just drop in, no need to book, you don't need to have any referrals of anything. You can even just be self-diagnosed. You don't need a doctor's note. And the session's also open to carers as well, even if they don't have a mental health issue. They welcome friends, family, support workers, carers. Frankly, it sounds as though you can go along. Whatever your age or status, free badminton and pickleball for mental well-being in Red Hill. So it's already started, it's got underway, but that doesn't matter. It's every Monday, badminton 1 till 2 in the afternoon, pickleball 2 till 3 in the afternoon. So you've got to be available to go there on a Monday afternoon at various times there at Donnings Leisure Centre. Tai Chi and Qigong classes. A couple of spaces have come up in those classes. £3 to £6 a class. First couple of classes are free. Tuesdays, 8 p.m, Wednesday lunchtime at 12 midday, Thursday 6:30 in the morning. It's Mountain Warriors organising all of this. 75 Hawley Road in Salfords, opposite McDonald's, just there on the A23. More information 07742 056154 or inquiry@mountainwarriors.com.
Good morning, everybody. Lovely to have you here this morning, and welcome to the YMCA Fun Run on this glorious Bank Holiday Sunday. Thank you for bringing the sunshine this morning. Who brought the sun out today? There will be runners here that want to run as fast as they can, but it is a fun run. We welcome everybody, all levels of running. our 5-mile events. That's adults and 16 plus. And then we have our adult 1 mile, and then our junior 1 mile races from then onwards, starting from 12 o'clock. 5-mile runners, if you can make your way to the start line, that would be amazing. It is slightly undulating. Take care, it is a fun run. I know that a lot of you here will be wanting to run your personal best, but remember, it is a fun run. Also as well, there is a water station at about halfway. We've got the lovely Nikki here as well, who's going to be doing a warm-up. As soon as you cross that finish line, you'll get a lovely medal. You can go and pick up your free bespoke race t-shirt at the YMCA t-shirt gazebo. Councillor Eddie Humphreys, Mayor of Reigate and Banstead Borough Council, and of course the Mayoress.
They call it a fun run. 5 miles, I don't know, it's a little bit contradictory on that, but it's lovely to see all the different stalls here, from archery right through to judo as well. We've got a beautiful ground here at the Reigate Priory. It's worth using and utilising, and especially on this glorious day. There's probably a good 40 different stalls here, all bringing their different disciplines, and it's from young to old. I'll probably try the archery, and I don't think I'll be trying the judo. I like to stay on my feet. And also walking into the park today, seeing the playground being used as well. It was absolutely packed in that playground. And the new cafe's open. Woo! That's brilliant, isn't it?
Runners, are you ready? YMCA, are you ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1! My goodness me, there's so many. Good luck, runners. Now I know that some of you have also been doing lots of fundraising, and of course all money raised goes towards YMCA East Surrey's vital work supporting young people through homeless accommodation and youth intervention.
I'm Judith Brooks, I'm Head of Children and Young People and Deputy CEO for YMCA East Surrey. It's incredibly important. Probably the most important area of it is to raise awareness of the YMCA's work. It's also a great opportunity for people to have fun, and we also want to raise money, of course. There's masses going on, and whatever people's interest or age or ability, we really look forward to welcoming them to our YMCA. So we have sports and fitness, range of classes and gym, of course, targeted activities for people recovering from strokes and heart attacks. There's our supported housing for young people and families in housing crisis. And there's my area of responsibility, which is children and young people, everything from preschools through to childcare, after school clubs, holiday clubs, and young people with disabilities and additional needs. Our emotional wellbeing, counselling services, and last but not least, our wonderful new Y bus, which is out on the streets of Red Hill. So it's a safe place for young people to come. It's going to be parked in various places that young people gather. It's got Wi-Fi and a TV, and there's lots of games and activities. We can do snacks and make hot drinks, and just provide a safe place for young people to come and chat and get to know more about the opportunities that we offer. I mean, we want to support those that need the help the most, but it's for everybody. So yes, our children's clubs, for example, after school are for all children to come along and enjoy themselves and have a great time. We are at St Joseph's Primary School. We're at the YMCA at Princes Road, and our youth clubs are happening in Hawley, at the Sovereign Centre at Reigate, and up at Merston as well. So we really are covering that whole area of Reigate and Banstead.
It's great to have so many of you here, and we have 600 runners taking part today.
Hi, I'm Kate Holer, and I founded Earlswood Running Club back in September 2018. We've got quite a big team running today, and it would be a bigger team, but a lot of us yesterday ran a 31-mile event from Horsham to Brighton, so we're giving them the day off today. We do lots of beginners running courses, so helping people who've never run before go from sort of 0k to 5k, and in fact some of my very first beginners were part of the 50k team yesterday. So it just shows that if you start running and you start gently team, you build it up, anything's possible. I think for most people it's like an improvement in their physical health, their mental health, the sense of community, the team. We really are like a family. We often have, runs and then we go to the pubs. We don't take ourselves too seriously, we're very inclusive. We do run hard and we work hard, but we also encourage everybody, our sort of mantra is no one gets left behind. If we're on a social run and someone's struggling, people will just drop back and chat to them, and we try and make it chatty and social and just sticking together and, getting everyone over that line. It was the running club that I wanted and I couldn't find it. It's, for men and women. We like to support local events, so we'll always come and do the YMCA Fun Run. We always sign up for Run Gatwick, Run Reigate. We like to support the sort of events on our doorstep. Also the Reigate Priory evening, 10k in July. We like to be part of the community and bring our community to these community events. You can follow us on Facebook, Earlswood Running Club, or you can look us up online and I can get you started if you want to join us.
Wow, well done, both of you. Loads going on. We've got the sports festival, we've got the climbing wall, so much going on, and of course, we wouldn't be able to put this event on without a shout out to all our incredible volunteers and marshals, and of course all our corporate sponsors. Stop you, here's Rickwood. 50k yesterday. You signed up for 5 miles as well today. Richard, well done, my goodness me.
I'm Ian Burks and I'm the Chief Exec at YMCA Surrey. I did the marathon a couple of weeks ago, so 5 miles doesn't feel quite as long as it used to. I started running when I was about 18, 19 and I'm now 63, and it's great, just keeps your life in order, keeps you fit, keeps you feeling positive. I've worked for the YMCA for 25 years, and the first thing I did when I started in 1999 was set up this fun run. So this is its 25th year. It's happened every year apart from pandemic, where it was a virtual run. It's really pulled all the community together. It's a great opportunity for all our different teams and all the work we do to come together and do one event. And everybody who works here is volunteering, so they all do it free of charge. It's a really lovely day. At its peak, we'd have 1,500 runners, and out of that, 1,000 children. In the early days, there weren't a lot of opportunities for children to run a mass participation event. Now it's brilliant because there's Junior Park Run and there are all sorts of other events for children, but back then there weren't, and it was a great opportunity to introduce exercise, running, fitness to kids. YMCA is belong, contribute and thrive, the things that we try and achieve. But you might see the red triangle of the YMCA, and that represents mind, body, spirit, an equal balance. Every child gets a t-shirt and a medal, so they all feel like a winner. Even if you're the last runner back, you're still a winner. You still achieve something really amazing. It's relatively flat until you get to the back of Priory Park, and then there's Park Lane. It's quite a steep hill, probably about 200 or 300 metres, and that's where people feel it. And then once you get up over that, you sort of come back down the park and into the back of the park, and then it's flat round to the finish. I mean, all the money that we raise, it's all going this year towards a housing scheme that we are developing for young people. Everybody gives their time freely. They're all volunteering, so they're fantastic. And obviously a lot of the runners that take part will also raise sponsorship. So big thank you to everybody for making it such a fun day.
If you've got your water bottle with you and you want to just fill that up, please do go and do that at the Quenchinator.
I'm Lucy Merritt and I'm Head of Communications and Marketing at SES Water. We think it's really important that we play a role in the community, and this provides a perfect opportunity for us to engage with our customers, talk to them face to face. But our other role here is also to provide water, which helps the event organisers to reduce their environmental impact as it reduces the use of single-use plastic. We are a truly local business, so we supply water to about 750,000 customers, predominantly in Surrey. Our head office is in Redhill. This is one of our tankers, and it's been custom made so that it can dispense fresh drinking water to all of the runners, spectators, and even the dogs that are here today. This was a bit of a first and a bit of an innovative and pioneering effort by SES Water. We've been supporting running events for a number of years, and this not only provides water for people, but as I said, helps to reduce that single-use plastic as well. We encourage people to bring their reusable bottles, and they can come and fill up here all day long throughout the event. So next weekend we'll be supporting Run Gatwick. We'll be back here in Priory Park later in the year to support Run Reigate.
Here we go. Do we have any sprint finishes? It's a nice downhill finish. We've got Claire and Kevin. We've got Jack, Tom, Karen have all come across the finish line. Congratulations, well done indeed. We've got Leopard Rifle. My word! Wow! It's Mark Allen. That is amazing. I love that pressure. YMCA, here we go. Oh my goodness, come on, Johnny.
And congratulations to everyone, all the staff and the volunteers and the runners as well, and all the families that support the kids and the mums and the dads and the aunties and the uncles and grandads. You get the idea. Everyone involved. It was a fantastic day. And YMCA East Surrey say they've been given a grant from the National Lottery to support their youth clubs and detached youth work right across East Surrey. And that's going to last them for the next 5 years. They say that funding is going to help provide crucial services to young people right across our community, including, of course, the Planet Reigate area.
The Good Time Guide. Things to do and places to go on the Planet Reigate podcast.
Travel and weather together. Also our 60-second soundscape, that dawn chorus from Pebble Hill. Also, I'm going to be bringing you before the show is out. Slightly longer edition of the show this week, but I couldn't miss the opportunity to commemorate the 30th anniversary of 4 Weddings and a Funeral, which of course was partly filmed right here in Surrey at our very own St Michael's Church in Betchworth. Explain it all a little bit later on, but I've got a unique watch and walk along, or watch and listen along, whichever way you want to look at things, inside the church that posed as a church in Somerset in the first, 10 minutes of that fantastic rom-com from 30 years ago. First things first though, let's tell you about the Good Time Guide, things to do and places to go this coming week from Monday. And looking for a fun and engaging women's group? Join Woodhatch WI. They say we welcome women of all ages and backgrounds and strive to create an inclusive, supportive community. We meet every second Monday of the month. So that'll be this coming Monday then at the Woodhatch Centre for our main meeting. Outside of this, they say we also offer a range of activities to suit all interests, including book clubs, craft sessions, pub quizzes and games groups. We also have interesting monthly speakers and activities, as well as trips to the theatre, cinema, galleries, historic buildings and gardens. And they say our next meeting, May 13th, will feature a unique antiques game that's sure to be a hit. I'm intrigued. Are you intrigued as well? I thought you might be. Okay, we've got some more events through the Reigate and Redhill Music and Drama Festival, of which we are proud to be a sponsor this year, a media partner indeed. They've got their piano and organ competition and vocal competition, both between 4 and 9 p.m. on Monday at the URC Church, that's the one on Shaw's Corner. And they've got speech and drama, same time, at Reigate Park Church as well. The Reverie at Buckland Park Lake say they're introducing their Lakeside Book Club on the 13th, and every second Monday of the month, 7:30 till 9:30, charcuterie boards will be available for purchase along with a full bar. If you want to reserve your place, email manager@thereverie.me to reserve it. And the first book's going to be Moon Tiger by Penelope Lively. That'll be Penelope Lively. Okay. Guided walk and the Menuhin Students Concert. Again, it's our friends at St Michael's Church in Betchworth who are playing host to them. Yeah, the medieval church there provides the backdrop for a concert featuring the talented young students at the Yehudi Menuhin School. You can also join them for a walk around the glorious surrounding countryside before the concert. and visit the church as well. 10:30 till 1:30, all part of the Surrey Hills International Music Festival. If you want some more details on that, bit tricky to bring those to you right here because it's one of those lengthy addresses, drop me a line and I'll let you know those details that you're after.
Email hello@theplanetreigatepodcast.com.
Merstham Women's Group say they are rebels with a cause and a cuppa. Love that. They've managed to secure the fabulous Sarah Slater for their next monthly talk, which is on Monday at Canada Hall, 7:30 for an 8 p.m. start. Now, they say that Sarah is a hugely knowledgeable guide at Hampton Court, and she's going to be talking to them all about the ghosts of Hampton Court. All ladies are welcome, whether from Merstham or not. They say they're not fussy, and they say it's a bargain at £3. That includes tea and biscuits as well. There's going to be a raffle, which helps them raise money for future speakers and so on. If you want some more details on that, mersthamwomensgroup.com. From Monday to Tuesday, and the Reigate and Redhill Music and Drama Festival, of which we are proud to be a media partner, have a piano and organ competition and strings competition, 4 till 9 at the URC at Shaw's Corner, and speech and drama competition at the same time at Reigate Park Church. From 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, Red Sprite will be creating virtual worlds with Unity as a platform used for games, virtual reality and films. Completely free, wow, at Co-Tribe in Redhill. But you do have to book your place and let them know you're going along. meetup.com/red-sprite for details and for an RSVP. Wednesday, and the Reigate and Redhill Music and Drama Festival, we're media partners with them, don't you know, have a brass competition between 4 and 9 at the URC at Shaw's Corner, and speech and drama at the same time at Reigate Park Church. East Surrey Walkers Group have a walk on Wednesday the 15th at Outwood. Park and meet at the Dog and Duck walks across Outwood Common to Brandsland Wood and Henshaw Farm, and there's lunch at a pub afterwards. So it's a circular walk, starting time at 10 o'clock, estimated finish around about 12:45, distance 5.5 miles, leisurely walk. Roger's got any more details that you may want from him on 07831 648 086. And yes, it is a dog-friendly walk as well. Well, our friends at the Lucy Rayner Foundation have fundraising charity adult ballet class on the 15th, 7:15 to 7:45 over there at Donnings. Yeah, every donation goes to the Lucy Rayner Foundation. For more information, balletcore.co.uk, ballet and then core.co.uk. Let's move on to Thursday. Move It with Holly. It's not a removal company. Do not contact Holly if you're moving house. Well, she may be able to help, but I can't guarantee it. But it's a 50-plus exercise class. Move it, you see. A low-impact exercise class to improve balance, strength, coordination and stamina. Have fun exercising to music from the 60s to the 90s. Class can be done seated or standing. No floor work, no need to book. You just rock up. And the first class is free. £6 each class, pay as you go. And it's at St Mark's Church Hall, Reigate, on a Thursday between 12:15 and 1:15. If you want some more information, if you've got any questions, 07889 740 169. And with all of these, sometimes people at the other end of the phone or the other end of the email will say, for their own kind of marketing to work out their publicity and so on, they'll say, where did you hear about us? Yeah? The answer you need to say is on the Planet Reigate podcast. Reigate Tunnel Beer Festival starts on Thursday, goes through till Saturday in Tunnel Road and Reigate. Kind of makes sense because of the name, doesn't it? The Ale for Aid event will raise money for charities including prostate cancer and the Surrey Air Ambulance. Always good charities. More than 40 fine ales will feature at the event. Entry £5 a day, including a commemorative glass. Pints a £5, and the event is run in association with our friends at Redhill Redstone Rotary Club. It started back in 2016. No truth in the rumour that some people are still there drinking their entry price at the moment. As I say, entry is £5 plus some fabulous gins from Gin Kitchen as well. Great selection of 40 ales. Thursday 4 till 10, Friday 4 till 10, and Saturday the 18th midday till 8 o'clock, subject to availability of the ales. So, if they run out, they're just going to obviously close the doors and turn people away. It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Reigate and Redhill Music and Drama Festival continues with their string competition 4 till 9 at the URC Church at Shaw's Corner and speech and drama at the same time at Reigate Park Church. A programme of free, fun and accessible weekly volunteer-led walks, ideal for anyone looking to become more active and meet new people. The third Thursday of the month, so that's what it's going to be. 10:30, Mandy's going to be kicking it all off at the Buckland War Memorial. A walk of 60 to 90 minutes. Mandy Cooper Digit 1 at yahoo.co.uk. Mandy Cooper 1 at yahoo.co.uk. Also on Thursday, Pregnancy Relaxation Evening at St John's Church Community Hall in Redhill, 7:15 to 8:30. Calm and relaxed space, giving you an opportunity to relax and bond with other mums-to-be and your baby. Relaxation and breathing techniques connect with your body and your baby. If you want more answers, or if you want a book, Be Your Own Birth /1239343. I wish I hadn't started that. As I always say, contact me for details and I'll pass on their details to you.
Email hello@theplanetreigatepodcast.com.
Reigate and Redhill Music and Drama Festival. Thank you. Classical guitar. Their contest 4 till 9 at the URC at Shaw's Corner on Friday. Saturday the 18th, MHA Communities East Surrey have a spring fair between 10:30 and 12:30 at Redhill Methodist Church. That's the one on Gloucester Road. You can fill a bag full of jumble for £5. Handbags and jewellery, cake, plants and bric-a-brac. You can't get a bag, put the jumble in, and on top of the cake that's probably not going to be a good idea. But go along, you can have a rummage. Homemade cakes, a chance to stock your garden as well, and all proceeds going to MHA Communities East Surrey to be used to support local older residents who enable them to live later life really well. A time, a season. Art Festival on Saturday next, 9 a.m. till 8 p.m. at St Matthew's Church in Redhill. Doors, that's a long one, isn't it? Doors close at 7:30 in the evening. Collage, calligraphy and cross-stitch. Tea and coffee available all day. Talks and music between 10 and 2. There's a lot going on there at that arts festival. It's St Matthew's Church in Redhill if you want to take part. Also, St Joseph's Preschool Spring Fair at St Joseph's Church Hall, 122 Ladbroke Road in Redhill, Saturday between 11 and 2. Entry, interesting price, £1 per family. Betchworth's third annual Artists and Artisans exhibition over the course of the weekend, 18th and 19th of May, where leisure artists exhibit alongside established professionals. A whole load of unique original artwork, display of the art of wood turning, arts and crafts, all sorts of different media, and you can buy it as well. Free entry, some live music, refreshments available, and free parking. More about the event, bletchfest.org. Yeah, as I say, that's happening at the Pavilion at Grange Meadow in Bletchingley. All sorts of things going on there, parking available, and also free to get in as well. Reigate and Redhill Music and Drama Festival Classical Guitar Competition, 9 till 6 p.m. at the URC on Shaw's Corner. Harp and Scottish Harp at the same time at Reigate Park Church. I love a bit of harp. That's really skillful, isn't it? And Scottish Celtic harp as well. That is unusual. So if you want to go along to those, it's free. You just go along, you open the door, you creep in, you sit at the back or the front, wherever you're invited to do so, and you hear some of the fantastic musicians and choirs and solo singers and bands and orchestras across the area, all coming together to celebrate what they do best here in the Planet Reigate area. The Brockham Arts Club Children's Workshop gets underway on Saturday the 18th between 6 and 8. £20 is a neon sunset pizza and paint night. Now, they've got other events going on, which I'm going to tell you more about next week, including a Pokemon-inspired workshop, a Taylor Swift-inspired workshop, a Mamma Mia-inspired workshop as well. Details next week on the Good Time Guide on the Planet Reigate podcast. Hawley Cook-Along between 11 and 1 on Saturday the 18th at Hawley Baptist Church on Court Lodge Road. They say no cooker, no problem. Join us in preparing and sharing tasty, nutritious and affordable food. There'll be demos with microwaves, air fryers, slow cookers, cold cooking and kettle cooking as well. Taste samples and recipe ideas will be available, and listen to this, you can win a slow cooker as well. That sounds really interesting. It's all being done in association with Reigate and Banstead Borough Council, Surrey County Council, Growing Health Together, Active Prospects and our friends over at Loveworks as well. All sorts of things going on, so you can do new things, you can meet new people and you can learn new skills. Or maybe watch other people with their fantastic skills. It's all sorts of things that make the Planet Reigate area so vibrant to live in, and that is why we all love living here and working here in the Planet Reigate area.
The Belfry Shopping Centre, Red Hill. Ditch the click for hassle-free local shopping in a welcoming environment. See, touch, smell and try before you buy, and speak to real people who can advise you. The Belfry Shopping Centre, Red Hill.
Well, last week on the programme we heard from some of the singers of the South Nutfield Choral Society, and that extraordinary story of why a member's dog is their mascot. We went off to Merstham to hear about the Horticultural Society there, and to Red Hill for an end-of-season report from the football club. Next week I go inside one of our local windmills and bring you its unique story ahead of an open day. We hear about one of the area's carnivals, what's on and when, so you can put the date in your diary. And last week we had an end-of-season report from Red Hill FC. Next week it's the turn of Reigate Priory FC, reflecting on their successes, their wins and their final standings as well, right here on the Planet Reigate podcast. Well, it's a big weekend as far as the M25 is concerned, because it's going to be shut all across this weekend. Now, it's also they can complete their work or do some more work, the £317 million Junction 10 improvement scheme. So it's between junctions 9, that's Leatherhead, and 10 for Wisley, from 9 p.m. Friday the 10th of May to 6 a.m. Monday the 13th of May. So hopefully while you're listening, it's across this weekend. Now, there is a diversion route clockwise from Gatwick towards Heathrow. Obviously, if you're going from the Planet Reigate area, around clockwise round to West London. And this is the route that it wants to take you. You leave the M25 at junction 8, in other words, over the hill. You go north, you go up the road, you turn left at Burheath Asda, you pass the playing fields on the right, you pass Nescott, the college on the right-hand side, down to the roundabout, turn right, you're with me, picture this in your mind's eye, all the way up to Tolworth Tower. Yes, I know, all the way up to Tolworth Tower. Left onto the A3 and you continue for 9.5 miles down to the M25 and you rejoin the motorway at junction 10. That is a heck of a diversion. Now, last time this happened, actually the local roads were okay and there wasn't so much congestion. However, because there wasn't so much congestion last time, it may lead some people to think, that's okay, I can go on that diversion route, I can use the A25 south of the motorway because it's going to be okay. Trouble is, obviously, if everyone thinks that, then there is going to be a problem. So you may just want to steer clear of that area, or at least build in some more time if you're planning to go west. From the travel to the weather, together on the Planet Reigate podcast. I'm Peter Stewart, hope you're well. It's just coming through to us. Here we go. Very warm on Saturday, some early patches of mist clearing to leave long, sunny spells. A gentle southeasterly breeze. Still very warm on Sunday as well. Some clouds, some sunny spells and showers possible. And the showers could be heavy and thundery in the afternoon. Monday starting dry, sunny spells but clouds, and the chance of showers moving in for the afternoon and a little bit cooler. And that's your forecast.
From Reigate and Red Hill, Buckland, Betchworth and Brockham. Great stories from places you love and people you know. This is the Planet Reigate podcast.
Well, it's one of the most popular rom-coms ever made, the 1994 romantic comedy starring Hugh Grant, Andy McDowell and Kristin Scott Thomas, to name a few. It's been a fan favourite ever since its release. You surely remember the story. It follows Charles, played by Hugh Grant, and his circle of friends through a number of social occasions as they each encounter romance. But although the first wedding is supposedly held at St John's Church in Somerset, the scene is actually filmed here at St Michael's Church in Betchworth. Now, you don't have to wait long to catch a glimpse of the church. It appears in the first couple of minutes after this memorable opening.
Hugh Grant's character wakes up and notices the time.
Oh.
He rushes across the room and wakes up his flatmate. And they both rush to get ready for the wedding. Before getting into the car...
Right, we take yours.
It only goes 40 miles an hour.
What turn off? But not with the B359.
It's the B359.
After a narrow miss with a van... they arrive at the church. And even though they're late, they manage to find a space on Church Street right outside the barn. And you can see St Michael's in the background as they finish getting dressed. And then the wedding car pulls up.
So I've parked in the exact same spot that Charles and Scarlett have parked, as I say, just by the side door of the large black barn here on Church Street. The barn belonging to the Home Farm estate before it was renovated in the 1980s, now a private home. Now, Betchworth grew as a village from a tight cluster of buildings around the church at the north side of the river crossing, and the Betchworth House estate. Henry Goulburn lived there in the early 1800s. He was a Chancellor of the Exchequer, and letters between him and Prime Minister Sir Robert Peel and the Duke of Wellington are held at the Surrey History Centre in Woking. And the Betchworth estate has changed hands only twice by purchase since the Domesday Book, and is today still in the ownership of descendants of the family who bought it back in 1816. And there's been a church on this site for 900 years, since before the Norman Conquest, and parts of it are from the mid-13th century. St Michael's is unusually large for a village of this size. That's partly because the parish once included Brockham as well, and it's called St Michael's after the patron saint of soldiers. In 1851, the old tower was demolished and a new one was put in, more of that a little bit later. And in 1879, there was the construction of the North Transept, which houses the Goulburn Chapel. There's that family name again. Now, on the soundtrack of the film, as Charles and Scarlett arrive, you can just make out the church bells very faintly. Now, in reality, they'd be much louder because you're so close to the building, especially because when that new tower was built, the number of bells increased from 6 to 8. I've been told that visitors are always welcome in the tower, and particularly on practice nights, Tuesday, 8 till 9:30, turn up, get a tour, and then afterwards apparently join the ringers at the nearby Dolphin Inn, which I can just make out over the road. They say, strong though the bell-ringing team is, we would welcome anyone over the age of 12 who has a sense of fun and might be interested in taking up ringing to ensure the continuation of this traditional English craft. Musical and physical skills are not very important, although a sense of rhythm might be useful. And of course, throughout the year, the ringers work hard for Sunday services and weddings, like for that between Angus and Laura in the film. Yes, the film. Now, even though we don't actually see them walk into the church grounds in the film, the route the guests would have taken is the few yards up through the Lynch Gate, where I am now, and into the grounds of St Michael's, standing in for St John's in Stoke Clandon in the movie itself. And they make their way through the graveyard and walk past the War Memorial, not into the main west entrance to the church with the double doors. Charles and Scarlett rush in through the south side of the church, so that's where I'm going to be coming into. Down the side, they are late. Most of the congregation are already in their pews. So let's follow them into this Grade 1 listed building. Well, I invite you to watch the film and to freeze frame it every time a shot changes, and I'll be able to talk you through what you can see on your screen and what is here in real life.
There's a sort of greatness to your lateness.
Thanks, it's not achieved without real suffering.
So first of all, we see Scarlett coming into the church and taking a seat about 10 rows from the back on the north side of the church. Charles is best man, of course, so he rushes down to the front of the church. But if you freeze frame there, you'll be able to see the big main double doors at the end of the aisle. And just to the left of that, you can spot a large white frieze on the wall, which I'm beside now. Now, this is in memory of Arthur Jaffrey, who died at Betchworth House in 1864, although he's actually buried in Norwood. Hartsfield Manor was being built by Arthur, the big home that's nearby, and Arthur was the son of a successful export merchant, and he was building Hartsfield Manor as a family home. Now, unfortunately, Arthur had a hunting accident. He was shot in the hand, and after the bullet was taken out, the wound got infected, and he died before the house was completed. His wife, Mary, who was pregnant, was left a widow with their 3 children, Lillian, Edward and Mary. Now, back to the film, and you see Charles approach the groom and 2 of his friends. Look over to the left side of the screen as you're watching on your TV. And about 4 rows back on the south side, you'll see a large marble memorial on what's actually a wall between the main aisle and the south aisle. And you'll be able to spot it quite easily. It's got a relief of a man's head on it. And this is Sir Benjamin Brodie. I've moved down the aisle to stand in front of this memorial right now. He was surgeon to George IV, William IV, and Queen Victoria. He was a doctor of international repute, especially into research into bone and joint disease. And his work drastically reduced the number of amputations being done at the time. He was the first president of the General Medical Council, and you've heard of the TV show Grey's Anatomy? Well, that's a play on words, named after a medical reference book, which was written in 1858 by a man called Henry Gray. It's a standard text even today. And that book, Grey's Anatomy, was dedicated to Sir Benjamin Brodie. So, Sir Benjamin lived and died at Broome Park in Betchworth. His estate, which extended to the top of Pebble Hill, included those quarries that we know so well, and they were served by a dedicated rail line, which is now part of Betchworth Station.
I am so sorry, Angus. Inexcusable. I'll be killing myself after the service if there's any consolation.
Doesn't matter. Tom was standing by. As long as you haven't forgotten the rings.
No.
Back to the film, and we see a lovely long view of the church in this shot. On the south side of the aisle, about 3 rows from the front, a man wearing a mayoral chain. So obviously either Angus or Laura live in the village and have good local connections. There are flowers at the end of the pews and 2 huge arrangements just inside the south door where Charles and Scarlett have just come in. Near the door, a sign, not actually shown in the film, which says it costs 13 pence a minute to run this church. Now, just to the left of the south door, I'm making my way over there now, there's a small alcove in the wall and a little brass plaque alongside, and just to the right of it, 2 more plaques, 2 military men, one who was killed in Bloemfontein in 1900, another at the Somme in 1918. Now, look to the main double doors at the end of the aisle, and you can just make out the corner of another marble plaque. It's quite long, very old, full of writing, and it describes the terms of the Fenwick bequest to the charities of Betchworth. Margaret Fenwick was the daughter of Sir Adam Brown of Betchworth Castle and the last of 9 generations of Browns to own the castle and the manor of West Betchworth. This manor was mostly in the parish of Dorking. The parkland of the ruined castle now forms Betchworth Park Golf Course. And this plaque sets out how Margaret Fenwick left to the parish £200, that's about £56,000 today, to be spent on binding out poor children of this parish to some manual trade and towards setting them up in their respective trades, in preferring in marriage such maidservants born in this parish as shall respectfully live 7 years in any one's service and whose friends are not able to do it, for such poor of this parish as shall not be under common relief, and an estate in Leatherhead to be purchased to perpetuate the said charity. Now, the Fenwick bequests are still administered by the trustees of Betchworth United Charities. It provides support to people in need, suffering hardship or distress, and grants for educational or training purposes to children and young people. And you have to live in Betchworth or Brockham. In 2022, it gave out £15,000. Incidentally, the last time the award was given for a maidservant as shall respectably live 7 years in any one service was in 1939. Back to the film, and let's move all the way up to the other end of the church at the top of the aisle, and Charles sits down here in the front row, the front pew, with Angus, the groom. Carrie, the character played by Andy McDowell, then comes in through the same south door. It's quite a tight shot from this angle, but we can just see the covered tub font on a round plinth behind her as she enters the church. So I'll move up to there. From 1951, it was actually made by Eric Kennington. And just moving up here, yeah, I can see that it's got carvings of St. Michael and the Madonna, chains carved at the base. And in the film, you'll see that Carrie, Andy McDowell's character, sits a few rows behind Charles.
People being late.
Then another long shot of the church again from the front, and we can clearly see the main west doors which open and the bride appears.
Here we go.
Now look closely at that scene. You'll see a cameraman just outside the door, just in front of the war memorial outside. It's not clear if he's part of the crew or whether he's there as part of the film. Now, even though it's possible that a bride might have a picture taken of her coming into the church, it would be odd that this attention to detail was gone into in the production of a film which famously was done on a shoestring budget. A shot now of the bride's perspective. This is Laura, played by the actress Sarah Crowe. Went on to star in the Philadelphia cream cheese adverts on the TV. Anyway, the congregation has turned around and looking at the lens of the camera, as though looking at Laura, who's walking down behind and past them. And at this point, we see the altar for the first time. And then another much longer shot from halfway down the choir, so much further back, looking down almost the length of the church, down the nave towards the bride. And you glimpse the War Memorial Cross through the open main door of the church. It's Grade 2 listed, Portland stone as a cross on the top, standing on top of 3 octagonal steps. World War I names inscribed on the octagonal plinth, World War II names on the angled base of the plinth. And inside the lectern, to the right, the pulpit, to the left from this angle, the brass lectern has a Bible rest on both sides and is dated 1905, and a candle holder on each side of that lectern. The pulpit has 5 kinds of marble inlaid in mosaic panels. Just looking at it now, there's marble steps going up to the pulpit, and the mosaic on the front of the pulpit, faith, hope, and love. In 1885, it was a gift to the church from Joseph Maynard of nearby Hartsfield Manor, and the choir either side of us, the viewer. Now the bride passes the characters Gareth and Matthew, played by Simon Callow and John Hannah, behind whom you can see a stained glass window, so that's on the north side of the church.
Oh, isn't she lovely?
The character of Scarlett there, played by Charlotte Coleman.
Scarlett, you're blind. She looks like a big meringue.
And the retort by Kristin Scott Thomas's character.
Dear friends, what a joy it is to welcome you to our church on this wonderful day for Angus and Laura.
And then, as the bridal march draws to an end, another long shot from the choir that we've had before. The vicar has got his back to us and the bride and groom are facing us. It's where they are standing that the church tower used to be. It was moved in the 19th century over to the south side, to the left in this scene. And at the same time, to the right-hand side, you can't see it in this shot, a chapel was built for the Goulburn family. Charles glances behind him and sees Carrie for the first time, the American woman played by Andie MacDowell. He's going to fall madly in love with her and has an unforgettable evening before continuing to cross paths with her at successive weddings and finally a funeral. But back to the timeline of the film, Charles searches his pocket for the rings and then looks behind the other side to his friends near the back right of the church with a very worried look on his face. Now, these are either long shots with a lot of the congregation or quite tight shots. We don't see much more of the church for several seconds.
Now, before we start the service, let us all join together in the first hymn.
Various shots now of Charles getting increasingly aware of his plight. He's a best man and he hasn't got the rings. Views of the congregation singing. He mouths the word help to one of his friends, Matthew, and indicates his ring finger to show his problem. His friend does a mock shock face and a wry smile and turns to Gareth, played by Simon Callow, and whispers what's happened. And then that news is passed on amongst the friends. All this time the congregation is singing, accompanied of course by the organ and the choir, some of whom we saw a few moments ago. Okay, so let's pause a moment in the chancel. It's the area with the altar, the choir and the organ as well. The north windows are Norman, the oldest ones in the church, although the glass is Victorian, and the east window dates from 1851. And these magnificent choir stalls that I'm standing beside at the moment, they are so intricately carved. They are absolutely beautiful. And they were carved by Julia Corbett, the wife of James Corbett of Moor Place. Now, the Corbett family served the church in Betchworth for nearly 100 years. James himself, who died in 1912, was churchwarden for 50 years. And their home at Moor Place was the centre of so much village life, including the Moor Place Cricket Club. And in memory of Julia Corbett, the family gave the screen at the back of the altar and the clergy seats over to my right-hand side, right up beside the altar. And they are actually just as good, if not better, than the choir stalls themselves. They really are quite exquisite. In fact, there's a plaque embedded in them which says that Julia beautified the sanctuary with varied and skillful handiwork. Lovely. 3 memorial tablets on the north wall are in memory of the lords of the manor of East Betchworth, the Harveys, the Bouverys, and the Goulburns again. The fine brass of a small figure holding a chalice representing Thomas Wardisworth, the vicar of Betchworth, who died in 1533. The iron gates which close the doorway into the vestry probably date from the 16th century. Turning around, and it's a relatively new organ here. The first pipe organ arrived at Betchworth Church in 1880. It was replaced in 2014. It's got 1,602 pipes from 16 feet in length to just a couple of inches. In the film, the hymn ends suddenly. We're back to the vicar with a slightly different shot for the first time.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered together here in the sight of God and in the face of this congregation to join together this man and this woman in holy matrimony, which is an honourable estate instituted in the time of man.
And we can see into the far right-hand corner, the northwest corner of the church, alongside the main front entrance. Here today is a children's creche area, and there's a big brass plaque on the wall that you can see in shot as well, in memory of local QC Alfred Cock. Charles looks ashen and glances back at his friends. John Hannah indicates that the problem is being sorted, and Charles leans into the groom and says,
"Back in a sec."
Therefore, if any man can show any...
Charles slips away from the groom, and we have a shot from the south door as he starts to creep up the south aisle. So let's do that little journey with him. He turns away from the bride and groom-to-be, passes in front of the intricately mosaicked pulpit, which we've spoken about before, and right in front of him is a large chest made from a single piece of oak. An analysis of the pattern of tree rings in the timber has given an estimate of its date as early 16th century. Now, it's got 3 locks, 1 key being held by the vicar and 1 by each of the church wardens. It's about 7 feet long, and it's bound with metal straps. It's not going to be moved very easily at all. Charles now turns past the South Aisle Chapel. It became known as the Hope Chapel after Henry Thomas Hope bought the manor in 1838. He also once owned the famous Hope Diamond. You may have heard of that. It's called the most famous diamond in the world. And more down to earth, he was also president of the Surrey Archaeological Society. And over to the left, just beyond that huge chest, is a map, or at least it's a copy of a map. It's on the east wall of the south transept. It's a copy of the map of the Manor of East Betchworth, made for Sir Ralph Freeman back in 1634, soon after he bought the manor. And that manor stretched as far as Headley in the north, and Gadbrook, which is between here and Lye to the south. Now, something which is, again, particularly interesting here is a brass memorial near the window, which commemorates the parents of Thomas Morstead. And there's an inscription here which is in Latin, and it reads, "Here lies Thomas Morstead and Eleonora, his wife. May their souls be brought near to God. Amen." Well, the younger Thomas was surgeon to Henry IV and Henry V, and was present at the Battle of Agincourt. He died in 1451. His parents lived at Moor Place, and he bequeathed money to the Church of Betchworth for the reparation and amendment of the chapel in the said church, in which my father and mother be buried. So we've got a new view now. We can see the edge of the pulpit and a small brass plaque on the wall beside it, which says that the pulpit was put in 1885.
Do you promise to love her, comfort her, honour and keep her in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, keep thee only unto her for as long as ye both shall live?
I do.
A view now over the groom's shoulder, quite tight here. We don't see anything much more than the vicar's face and the edge of the lectern with a candle holder either side.
To love and to cherish.
Till death us do part.
Till death us do part.
Back over the vicar's shoulder now, we see Matthew creep across the back of the church to meet Charles, who's now standing off shot by the south door. There's some fumbling, and the best man scooches back into position.
I pledge thee my troth.
So let's make our way back to where the centre of the action is, again with the bride and groom-to-be at the top of the aisle. Charles hands over the ring in a viewpoint we've seen before, quite a tight shot now, and the congregation is blurred into the background, so too any notable features of the church.
Do you have the ring?
The vicar looks surprised in a close-up. Close-ups now of first Angus, then Laura. They both look surprised, bemused, a little peeved.
With this ring I thee wed.
With this ring I thee wed.
They put rings on each other's fingers, and we see for the first time ones which have been donated by their friends, a large multicoloured plastic heart-shaped ring for Laura and a metal skull ring for Angus.
With my body I thee worship.
With my body I thee worship.
And with all my worldly goods I do thee endow.
And with all my worldly goods I thee endow.
And the final shot of this scene and of the inside of the church is from the back of the church. So let's move up there. It's a view we haven't seen before from over the heads of the sitting congregation on what feels to be the first pew on the right as you enter the church from the south door. We get a lovely view of the nave from left to right, plaques on the wall to the left of the lectern, the gold lectern itself, the wood panelling on the walls of the choir, the candles burning on the altar beyond, and above the altar a frieze and a stained glass window. And just to the left of the lectern, as we're watching, two large memorials on the wall, one in memory of the local Kensit family, and another to soldier Hugh Mott, who was killed in the Somme. So that concludes the first wedding of 4 in the film 4 Weddings and a Funeral. And incidentally, wedding number 3, Carrie's, is supposed to be in Perthshire, but was also filmed in Surrey, not far from here, in St Peter and St Paul's Church in Albury, part of a Grade 2 listed mansion. It's apartments now. But back to our church, though, and incidentally, the cost of having a wedding here at St Michael's today, I have inquired. It depends on factors as to whether, for example, you want the bells, and if you want the choir as well. You can get married here on a film set, if you like, if one of you at least is baptised, and one or both of you lives within the parish of Betchworth or Buckland, or is on the local electoral roll. Weddings can be arranged for any day between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m, subject to other services in the church. The clergy will arrange to meet couples about 3 or 4 months before the wedding date. They'll talk about the vows and the prayers and the readings and decide which ones they're going to choose. According to the website, Pam Armitage and Jean Cook are the church flower coordinators here. Oh, and confetti can be thrown outside the church, preferably the biodegradable sort. So that is one wedding of 4. But what of a funeral? Well, I can kind of bring you one of those as well. From St Michael's, Betchworth? Well, almost. We've spoken about quite a few memorial plaques and so on, but we've got another really unusual burial. And joining me is Karen. She's the village archivist who we first met back in episode 30 with some tales from the churchyard. So, Karen, welcome back to the Planet Reigate podcast. Yeah, so what can you tell me here? Where are we, first of all?
We're standing just inside the church with the west door behind us, and we're looking down the nave, which is the central aisle of the church, towards the east window and the altar.
So when people are watching the film, obviously they see Laura, who is the bride, walking down the aisle, and actually she walks over, something which I didn't mention earlier on, several tombs, doesn't she?
Yes, several marked tombs, but there are probably a lot of unmarked burials underneath these tiles. During the medieval period, people were being buried, if you had the money, inside churches. This became quite a popular practice during the late medieval period. 2 reasons for it. One, the church began to allow it, and they were grateful for the money, because you had to pay to be buried inside the church. And the nearer to the altar that you were buried, the more it cost.
How many people were likely to be buried in a tomb?
Quite a few. Underneath the floor here, at this period, the tombs would be basically an excavated pit, brick-lined. And members of the family were interred as they died. So the slab would be taken up and the next member of the family put in, and the slab put back again. I will be showing you a little later a family where there are more than 3 people entombed.
Wow. And let's move up a little bit further up the aisle, and about halfway up we find a slightly different, well, it's actually a brass plaque, isn't it? And this is from 1796. Oh, the Stables family. Tell me about them.
Quite an interesting story. Underneath here is buried John Stables, John Edward Stables, and Dorothy Stables as John's wife. John Stables was born in 1741, and he worked for the East India Company. He had money, and when he married Dorothy, he acquired more money. Dorothy was the daughter of George Papley, and she was born in Kingston, Jamaica. Her father owned a plantation, and with it owned slaves. When he died in 1770, he left Dorothy £20,000 and property in Sunninghill in Berkshire. When she married John in 1773, that money automatically became his. John Edward, their son, died aged 15. But that isn't all of the Stables family. If we walk a little further towards the pulpit and then turn right.
So here is where the tower was originally, wasn't it? Just in the middle of the church.
Absolutely right, yes. And it was removed in 1851.
And it was moved over here to the south side. So we'll move over here. We're going past the pulpit. We're going over to that giant chest that I spoke about a little bit earlier on. And where are we going now? We're going up here.
No, I'm going to lift the carpet.
Well, there's a big rug just beside the chest, which Karen has lifted up, and it says Edward Stables, 1815, whose body lies near the field of Waterloo.
Indeed. Edward Stables was the second son of Dorothy and John, and he died on the field of Waterloo at the age of 32. He was buried near where he died, and he was buried in what was basically somebody's back garden. But an enormous tomb was erected over his grave. It stayed there until, I think it was 1894, when all the named officers who were buried around the field of Waterloo had their remains moved to the big memorial that had been built to celebrate, or commemorate, I should say, Waterloo. You'll also notice underneath his brother, Frederick Stables, who died in July 1815.
So only a month later?
Yes, Frederick was also at the Battle of Waterloo. He died of wounds, but he died here in this country, and he was buried in the family vault. And you can see there are 4 girls who were also buried here, none of them married. And you'll also see Colonel Henry Stables. If we move further up, there's another story.
Right, okay, well, let's put that rug back there. Tell me a little bit more about the Stables family, because that's a huge amount of money that they had, but by the sound of it, the daughters didn't marry, and so the family presumably not around these parts anymore.
No, they're not. When John and Dorothy first got married, they lived in Addiscombe, which is now part of East Croydon. John owned at least 2 houses there, and he leased a farm.
And that would have been Surrey at the time, of course.
Absolutely, it was Surrey, and quite rural Surrey too. They had 8 children, 4 boys and 4 girls, who were all born while they were living at Addiscombe. But in 1793, John Stables bought Wanham Manor, from the Earl of Romney. And the family lived there even after John's death until 1804. Then they bought Moor Place, which, if you know Betchworth, it is further down the lane. And Henry Stables, who was head of the family at that point, restored Moor Place. By 1810, interestingly, we were talking about Edward. He had bought his own place, Great Hormead, and he was restoring that. Oh, one little story about Edward. After his death, his horse had survived, which was very lucky because thousands of horses were killed alongside thousands of men on the battlefield of Waterloo. And his horse was taken back to Great Hormead and lived out the rest of its life there. Henry inherited Great Hormead from his brother, but Henry continued to live in the village in Moor Place.
Moor Place just keeps coming up time and time again, doesn't it? If you did one of those like that TV programme and followed the history of the families that went through one building, that would be a fascinating story.
That is another story.
So I think you were going to take me a little bit further up. So this is up behind the organ now.
The organ, as it is now. In 1884, an organ was built here, straight ahead of us, which is on the right-hand side of the altar. It was so big that it actually blocked out that window. It had come to the end of its life, and it was decided that a big fundraising effort would be started and a new organ would be built, and it was enormously expensive. It took some years. But the money was gotten together, and in 2013, it was decided that when the organ had gone from this position and moved to its present position, the end of the south chancel here would be turned into a choir vestry or a lady chapel. But it was also decided, quite rightly, that there should be wheelchair access. There used to be a big step up.
Ah, right, yeah, I hadn't noticed that before. It's a very gentle incline, isn't it?
Very gentle incline here, but here there was a big step.
Right, so now we're just short of the altar on the right-hand side, and the choir is just starting over to our left, those choir stalls.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, so in here, this is where the old organ used to be, and I notice in the middle of this rather modern red-tiled floor, there's a silver plaque, a metal plaque, which says, "Below lie the mortal remains of Henry White, 1728-1793, which saw the light of day again in summer 2013 during building work in this chapel." So I'm presuming that the story is that when the organ was taken away, you discovered that there was this body, this tomb underneath.
Not quite as simple as that.
Ah. The best stories aren't simple ones.
The floor level was a lot higher. So the workmen came in and they took off the Victorian encaustic tiles and underneath found some slabs, plain slabs with tiles around the edge, terracotta tiles, but there were also 2 grave slabs, and one of those grave slabs was for Thomas and Eleanora Morstead.
Ah, yes, we heard about them before, yes.
From Moor Place. Yeah. And the plaque, little plaque on the wall outside, came from their grave slab. You could see where it had been taken out. And we think the Victorians, when they refurbished this area, took it off and put it on the wall. It wasn't just Henry White who lay here. Once the workmen had taken these slabs away, bricks were revealed, domes. And we were here at the moment they discovered these brick domes underneath the floor. because we were taking a photographic record of all of the works that were going on. The workmen didn't quite know what to do. They had taken a few bricks away. They could see there was a hollow underneath. And I have to say, quick as a flash, gave him a camera and said, "Could you just poke it down, please, put it on flash and take a photograph?" Which he did. And underneath was a beautiful domed brick-lined vault with a coffin. They did further exploration, and they found next to it a bigger domed vault, which had 4 coffins in. One of those was Henry White. Another 2 couldn't be identified because one had crushed and the other had nothing on it. But the other one was Henry Stables.
Back to the Stables family again.
Back to the Stables family. And I have no way of knowing why Henry Stables was buried here, a little bit further away from what appears to be the family tomb. But bear in mind, there were, how many of them were there? 6 members of the family who were buried somewhere in the South Chancel. And we know that Henry Stables was buried down there.
But we don't know why.
No. But
although he is nearer the altar, of course.
Yes, he is. But that might just be chance. We think that that second tomb was rather crudely extended at some point. And it might have been an extension to put Henry Stables in. We don't know.
And this part of the church was here at the time, wasn't it, by that stage? Because I know it had been extended north and south, hadn't it, either side of that main aisle?
Yes. Oh, yes. No, this was certainly here at that time. All work had to stop because mortal remains had been found. The diocese had to be informed and permission had to be given to carry on and reveal the extent of it. They still wanted to lower the floor, but they also discovered bones around the edges, and those bones would have been from earlier burials, and there was no sign of coffins. It could have been earlier medieval burials where there were no coffins, we don't know. The decision was made to take the tops off the domed brick vaults and then reinforce the floor and then relay and put these modern tiles on. So, yes, Henry White saw the light of day again, but so did Henry Stables. And it's covered. And we have a record of it, but records do have a horrible habit of getting lost. So it might be that in 200 years, people might wonder what else lies beneath.
And what do we know about Henry White?
Oh, Henry White, he was Lord of the Manor of Brockham.
And this would have been at a time when that was all part of the parish. It was Betchworth and Brockham, wasn't it, at one stage? Hence why that church was made a little bit larger.
The church in Brockham, Christ Church, was built in the middle of the 19th century. And it was not endowed with a churchyard, so burials had to take place here in Betchworth. In fact, there is what is known as a coffin route, and it comes from Brockham across the fields here to Betchworth, and that's where the coffins were carried.
Fascinating. It's all absolutely fascinating stuff. Karen, thanks very much indeed for showing me around. That's your expertise, your knowledge. It's fascinating. I love all this local history.
It's been a pleasure to do it, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for joining me again. And I should say there's a special outdoor screening of 4 Weddings and a Funeral on the 18th of May in the grounds of Betchworth House. Entry 6:30, barbecue at 7, film at 8. Tickets £20 a person, including the film and the barbecue. And there's a paying bar as well. Limited places, and they say bring a seat and a waterproof. because you never can tell what the weather's going to do. If you want to get involved with that and book your tickets, pillarsbetchworth@gmail.com. That's PILLARS Betchworth, pillarsbetchworth@gmail.com. And the timing is just about right, because I've mentioned the organ a little bit earlier on, and in fact they are about to do a little bit of organ practice. You heard a couple of keys being pressed there. And I tell you what, I wonder if I could ask our friend here, can you just play us out on the podcast by playing a little tune on this fantastic organ? How about that? What's your name, sir?
Charles.
Charles. Charles is going to play us out. How about that?
And our thanks to Charles, and also our huge thanks to Karen as well, the Betchworth Village Archivist, for giving up her time and sharing her expertise as part of that rather long, I appreciate, but hopefully really interesting kind of one-off look behind the scenes at Betchworth St Michael's Church, as featured in 4 Weddings and a Funeral. 30 years ago. Thought it was a really good opportunity to do something slightly different on the podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know. Hello at theplanetreigate.podcast.com.
This is the Planet Reigate podcast.
And maybe you're now going to go to St Michael's Church and look at some of those things yourself, or maybe you're going to think to yourself, actually, haven't seen 4 Weddings for a while. Let's actually pop that on, the Betamax, and have a look at it, and now we'll be able to spot those things that Peter was talking about. Let me know how you get on. Okay, this is the Planet Reigate podcast, and
next week on the Planet Reigate podcast,
the story of the local windmill that was saved from demolition, looking ahead to a big local carnival, and looking back at the last season with players from Reigate Priory Football Club. That and a whole host of other features and stories from places you love and people you know across Reigate, Redhill and Merstham, Buckland, Betchworth and Brockham.
The 60-second soundscape. Local natural sounds, uninterrupted.
And before we go, at the end of the show, natural sounds from a place you know. And this week, Daybreak on Pebble Hill, recorded at 5 a.m. last Sunday as part of Dawn Chorus Day. Amongst the robins and blackbirds, thrush, wren and crow, listen out for the rare tawny owl several times.